son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. This week, NASCAR travels to Dover, home of the Monster Mile for the AAA 400 Drive for Autism. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody, the holiday where we celebrate the small village of Santa Poco freeing themselves from the tyrannical madman El Guapo with the valiant help of the three amigos. Or at least that's what I think Cinco de Mayo is about. Regardless, anyway, back to Dover, where we will have 400 laps with stages of 120, 240, and then we'll go the final 160 all the way to the finish.
Interesting fact is Chevrolet has won 8 out of the last 12 races here, with Toyota winning 3 of the last 4. Out of those 12 races, the winner has come from the top 10 50% of the time, and from that 10 to 20 position 50% of the time. Will facts be facts? Guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Well, kids, it'll be overcast, cool, and the chances of rain are around 40% during race time, so I would expect delays when we go racing at 2 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1.
Delays!
Yay, back to delays. All right, kids, we'll get to the NASCAR picks shortly, but first we have some NASCAR news. The first thing, and we tried to do this last weekend, but we had technical issues, so we'll get this news to you this week instead. First, FanDuel is now offering NASCAR, so we actually have another site to compete with DraftKings to play our daily fantasy NASCAR on. That is exciting, although FanDuel has some pricing issues, and they're trying to figure out tournament sizing. They seem to at least be making progress on the tournament sizing quicker than DraftKings did over the past 3 years. Liehr, you want to comment about FanDuel offering NASCAR for the first time?
I think it's amazing, man. It just brings more competition to the market. Obviously gives players other venues or opportunities to play fantasy NASCAR and, to win that money. And a different pool of players probably that are brand specific and loyal to, FanDuel or DraftKings. So it just opens up the market even more and other avenues to make some more potential money. So I think it's a fantastic thing, and I know you and myself are going to be mixing it up in the FanDuel as well. So here's to another avenue and making our community even that much stronger.
Yeah, and just a heads up, guys, we're still going to be using DraftKings pricing as that's the primary site that everybody uses for the most part right now. And until FanDuel pays us money to promote their product, I'm pretty sure we're going to stick with using DraftKings pricing as our just standard here. The other interesting piece of news before we get into the picks is that DraftKings has announced its World Championship Live Finals. This is a cool thing that we usually go after. Unfortunately, Liehr and I have been so close to qualifying for the Live Finals with several second place finishes, but never taking down the actual Live Final qualifier. I love this tournament.
Thanks, Pierce.
Yeah, Pierce. There's too many to thank.
Yeah.
This is a really cool format that offers a lot of money to the champion, and they're small fields once you get qualified to them. But qualifying to the World Championships is really hard, as it's all or nothing in almost every contest you'll run, at least for NASCAR, where you have to take the top spot down to get to the Live Final. The only issue I have with this Live Final is the 2 races that they use for it. The first to get to the actual Live Final, where DraftKings flies you out, is the new Indy Fall race, where we'll be racing in Indianapolis in the fall. And traditionally, Indianapolis is more of a crapshoot race, closer to a restrictor plate race, even though they don't run restrictor plates there, in the way that it ends up being scored towards the end. And you have to place in the top 12 out of that to get to go to the Live Final out of 30 people.
30 positions,
yeah. Oh, and here's the best part. The final, the Live Final, is at NASCAR's first ever attempt at a oval/road course in the Roy Oval at Charlotte. So the world champion of NASCAR will be declared off of a luck box race and then a race where we literally have no data because no one's ever ran that type of track before. Fun stuff. Liehr, your thoughts?
It is a true, authentic race to determine who is the best fantasy NASCAR player in the world. Bear none. No, it's crazy, man. I don't understand why they choose that particular race as the final for the overall champion. And I mean, in a sense, I think the reason they did it was because it's something that they've never done before. It's something that NASCAR has never done at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it basically puts all the players kind of on the same platform or the same area of the unknown. So I think that's kind of the reason why they probably chose that race. But the best part too is this year they at least got a live final back together where you do get $1,000 in cash for airfare and transfer over to Charlotte, North Carolina this year, to where last year there was no live final. So at least you get to mix it up with the quote-unquote best of the best when it comes to fantasy NASCAR. So the 12 best players out there, and definitely probably will be over the next course of the season, are the winners of the qualifiers, because these are the guys that put the time in, the effort to actually get those. The other thing too is at least, again, they're doing it back-to-back years to where in the qualifiers, at least if you don't win the ticket, if you're in that top 10, I think at least you still get some money back because, I mean, you can spend, if you're going to max out on those qualifier entries, I mean, you can spend up to $400 into entry fees if you're doing multiples in the lower tiered. And then they do offer upper tiered ones. For like this week is 190, max is 2 entries, so that's $380 bucks. So, but it's in a smaller field of 67 players. So, pick your poison, but best of luck, and I'm sure I'll see all y'all in those qualifiers for sure this season.
Guys, I just want to be clear: the live finals are a lot of fun, and Liehr and I have had the pleasure of going to a football live final, like on a different site, and it was a blast. The only problem is live final qualifiers are basically all or nothing. And Liehr's...
It could be a money burner.
Right. And traditionally, people hemorrhage tons of money to get one of these seeds. And if you see even the quote-unquote pros out there, a lot of them are negative players when it comes to going after these live final seeds. But it's a lot of fun if you get there and get to go. Liehr and I got to drink on a yacht and have all kinds of fun in LA back in the day. So
it was fun. It was a great time.
All right, Liehr, I think it's time to get into the actual picks. But before we do, you got to give us a burning rubber.
Yeah, brother. Going back to the East Coast this week and hitting up the Monster Mile, and that is definitely one track that I would love to go see in my day at some point. Burning Rubber Monster Mile style, baby!
Nice, dude. I didn't know if you were going to go Monster Mile style, Cinco de Mayo style.
Good at drink, though.
All right, Liehr, who do you have for us to burn some rubber this weekend? Cinco de Mayo style or Monster Mile style?
Well, man, I am going to be going back to the well, going back to a guy that is my favorite driver on the circuits. You know how we do it most times here on this show. We roll the hat of the guy that we are picking for our burning rubber pick, and I'm going back to Truck and the boys in the 78 garage. They're coming off poor results the last handful of weeks, from Talladega, Richmond, Bristol. And they come back to a track where they've had some historical success. They'll be starting tomorrow from the 3rd position. His cost this week is $10,800, so he's the 3rd highest costing driver on the board. He has raced here 24 times. He's got 2 victories under his belt, 4 top 5s, and 13 top 10s. He had a dominating performance here and dominating in 2016, where he led 187 laps and just completely dominated the race from start to finish. But the last 4 races here too, he's also been a quote-unquote dominator with laps led of 47, 187, which we just talked about, 102, and 51 laps. So the last 4 races, he's led a combined total of 387 laps. So he's definitely the biggest dominator here in the last 4 races. The team's been on kind of a downslope, especially like we talked about the last 3 races at Talladega, Richmond, and also Bristol, coming off really poor finishes. And I think this team is in the right place to get back on track, get back on the right path for the 2018 season. And he's definitely primed to go out tomorrow and have a dominating performance in that 3rd position. It's all going to depend on Kyle Larson. I know Kyle Larson is not your burning rubber pick, but Kyle Larson is a guy that will go out and, he could go out and dominate, but he's not really happy with his car this weekend. And then you go to the 2nd position, which is a guy we'll be talking about next, but we've got majority of the high stake guys up at the top this week. I just think Martin Truex Jr. and the number 78 team are going to get their front part of their car out front, lead majority of the race, stay on the correct path this weekend. They're going to have they got a great pit stall. I think they're primed to have a great race tomorrow, and I look for the number 78 team to be a must-own play and a guy that takes you all the way to the money tomorrow.
I like the Truex play. I like his price point. I mean, he's one of the three studs that you're clearly going to want to go with here. There's going to be arguments that people will argue that there's a fourth stud in Larson, but I think you hinted well. Larson was not happy with his car. They went one direction tight, then they went way loose, then they were back tight, and it's just they have major problems, and he is not happy. Now, if that car gets dialed in, Larson might be the better play than Truex or even the guy I'm going to talk about. But as of now, I think my strategy is to fade Larson sitting on the pole. And I love your Truex play. Matter of fact, I have a couple that I've designed right now that I'm going back and forth with that are Truex. The other two guys I'll talk about, one of them is my burning rubber pick. And yeah, from the bush hat, you guys can tell I'm back on Harvick. And yes, he's 11K this weekend, but Harvick is the real deal. And I realize that I have picked him a bunch this season, but guys, he and Rowdy are just the two best cars on the track week in and week out. And both of those cars are plays basically at every track. Now, Harvick's stats here at Dover are all over the place. However, every time he has started in the top three at Dover, he's led at least 117 laps. And he had a stretch of 4 races at Dover from 2014 to 2016 when he was straight fantasy goodness, leading laps and or having finishes that would make him required to be on the winning lineups. This weekend at Dover, he's starting on the front row next to Larson, who, as we've said, is not comfortable with that car at all. I think it could be even the first lap that Harvick is taking control of this race. He's also timed out as being 5th in 10-lap averages in happy hour, but the most important in my book is that he was top in 20-lap averages. He and his teammates Boyer, 1st in 10-lap averages, and Amarola, who was 4th in 10-lap averages, are just fast. That Stewart-Haas racing team looks to be really dialed in this weekend, and I love Harvick. I love his teammates, and when I'm not on them, I'm on Rowdy. Liehr or Truex even.
Yeah, brother. I'm also right there with you. I can't deny the fact that, we've got Harvick starting in that second position this week. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, man, even at Talladega, when we're completely at a different type of track. Even last week, Harvick just came out and decided to, have a race where, he started from the pole and he still finished in the top 5. Now, granted, he wasn't a guy that you wanted on your team because, where he was, he didn't lead enough laps and he only led 12 and he only ended up with 44 points on your fantasy team. But we are talking about a completely different track type this week. We're talking about a guy that has had some marginal success here at the Monster Mile. He's got a win under his belt, obviously. But this guy, too, I mean, you can't deny the fact that Stewart-Haas Racing was the fastest in practice. But the other thing I look at, too, is Chevy and Toyota have dominated here over the last 12 races. There's been no Ford that has been in victory lane. But that doesn't mean that a Ford can't be a dominator when it comes to tomorrow's race. So in my mind, the way I see that the race kind of projects itself out is I see Kevin Harvick just getting out there at the beginning of the race, even over Kyle Larson. And I just see him going up there, dominating some laps. And then I kind of see Truex and the boys getting in the mix as well. And then also then taking it all the way to the checkered flag. So I definitely have love for Harvick tomorrow. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be a must-own play. He hasn't necessarily dominated here. The last 3 races, he's actually led 0 laps the last 3 races. But the race before that, where he started from the pole, he led 117 laps. So he's not starting from the pole, but he's starting from second. Kyle Larson's not happy with his car. So that means Harvick's going to go out to the front real early. He's going to get up front. He's going to lead some laps. That could turn from at lap 5 all the way up to lap 100 to 150. Not saying that Harvick and the boys are going to win the race. I think they're definitely a top 5 car. There's no doubt about that. But I think he's definitely going to be one of the quote-unquote dominators that you need to have on your lineups tomorrow. So you better be putting some Harvick on your lineups tomorrow.
After our Burning Rubber guys and clearly Rowdy that we've talked about a little bit, just the tear that car is on for Kyle Busch is just unreal. Other possible dominators this week, Chase Elliott has really good history here and has led laps. Team Penske had a good practice this morning, but kind of fell off in the second practice. And Blaney, who's starting back more, is an interesting play, but he's also not happy with his car. Do you like any of those Team Penske guys or Elliott this week or anybody else that you think could dominate the race?
Well, I think one guy, I mean, when you're putting together lineups this week, obviously you're going to start off with your big boys. You're going to start off Truex, Larson, Harvick, Rowdy Busch, the high salary guys. And when you put those guys on there, obviously you need to get some salary relief, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But I think a lot of the guys that are going to be kind of quote unquote forgotten about are the upper kind of middle tier guys when you're talking about Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Elliott, Johnson, Blaney, Voyer, Amarola, those type of guys. I think one of the guys that a lot of people will probably overlook, a guy that I really liked last week, and we ended on talking with him before we couldn't get the video uploaded, but I really like Joey Logano this week, coming off of a victory, getting that boost of confidence. You know how this goes here in NASCAR, where it is a momentum game. Obviously you talk about Harvick winning 3 in a row. You got Kyle Busch, Rowdy Busch winning 3 in a row. I mean, it is a momentous kind of sport. And I really do. You got Joey Logano starting from the 18th position. He was fastest in second practice this morning. Guys, obviously doesn't have a win here, but he's got some decent stats. He's got 18 starts with 3 top 5s and 10 top 10s. He definitely gets a top 10 more than 50% of the time that he starts here. And I'm really thinking that starting from that 18th position, this guy's got the potential to get not only a top 10, but a top 5 finish. And I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and lead a ton of laps, but he's going to have some fastest laps. He's going to get those place differential points. And I know at his cost, he's a little expensive at $9,500, but when you really break it down, it's a guy from that kind of later team tier that really gives you the opportunity to get that place differential.
No, I like him as a place differential play. The problem I have is that he's only ever led 3 laps here in almost 20 races. Like, that's just terrible, and says that he's not going to dominate. Now, he might move up into the top 5, but off of his win, Logano's the kind of guy that sandbags, and I could totally see him sandbagging this race. I mean, we talked about that earlier. Where he just doesn't want to compete, and that's
I'm in the playoffs. I don't need to worry about this.
Right, that's the thing that gives me a moment of pause in playing Logano. It almost makes me want to reach down and play Jimmie Johnson a little bit more, who actually had better 10, 15, and 20 lap time than Logano. I would just rather go there and actually save money. But you may be right that people will just overlook both of these guys because
you can't not love a little bit of the JJ this week. I mean, the guy's got 11 wins in 32 starts here. A guy that's, starting from the, 18th position? No, 19th. I'm sorry. Logano starting from the 18th. Yep. Jimmie Johnson's starting from the 19th position. He was practicing in the top 10 all day long. He won here last year, same race. Don't throw it past the guy not to go out and get it done this week, because he's going to be in Chad Canals. They need something to hitch their wagon to this season, because it hasn't necessarily gone the way that he's wanted it to go. And we're in the longest winless streak of Jimmie Johnson's career. So is Monster Mile Jimmie Johnson's track to be? I guess we'll see tomorrow.
As you can tell, there are a lot of guys we want to spend a lot of money on this week, mostly because they're dominators, some of them because they're just really good cars. They're offering us a couple of a really nice place differential play this week. So we need to save money. Liehr, what direction are you going in to save us some money this week?
Well, brother, it's kind of funny. When we filmed last week, we were talking about a guy that I really, really liked, and it was because he was starting from a position that isn't necessarily a great position for him, but I'm talking about David Ragan and the Front Row Motorsports boys. They had an awesome week last week, and obviously because we weren't able to watch the video that Poppa and I made, but I had a little bit of love for Ragan, and he thought that I was completely gone off the reservation. But this team's been performing way above expectations, for this veteran, and also for McDowell too. I mean, both of them have been qualifying very, very well and have had really, really good results so far this season. But he was practicing in the teens today, and I'm really impressed with David Ragan. But he's been here 23 times. He's got 0 wins, 0 top 5s, and 0 top 10s. but I'm not expecting him to have a top 10 this weekend.
Right.
But I surely do have expectations that he's going to have a top 20 finish this weekend. And starting from that 32nd position, he's going to be a cheap play that you can get into your lineups, get yourself the opportunity to get the big boys that you want to get in there for your dominators, and a guy that has huge place differential potential, and a guy that him and his partner in crime, Michael McDowell starting 29th and Ragan starting from 32nd position. Both of them have awesome opportunity for place differential this weekend, and both of them are really at an insane price tag on DraftKings. So I think both of them are definitely in play this weekend, and I love David Ragan. The guy's been coming at it as of late, and I see him taking that momentum this weekend into the Monster Mile, even though I know a lot of people will say, well, historically, he doesn't have very good stats here. But you know what? Again, stats are stats. They'll take you so far. It is a good, way to look at things and possibly the way that things will come out in the future. But momentum and recent data in the series is what I focus on the most anyways. Mm-hmm. And David Ragan and the boys have been performing very well. I think they're going to have a great finish tomorrow. I would say they finish between 15 and 20 and get you more than, 12 to possibly 15 place differential points.
I absolutely love both those guys for value for place differential. Another guy I'm looking to for my value play is Bubba Wallace at 5,800 starting 26. Yes. I think I'm going to get a lot less ownership than what I'm going to have, than what we're going to see on Ragan. Just like I think McDowell's going to carry less ownership than Ragan, but you do give up 3 place differential points. But they should be in the same equipment and the same setup. And Ragan was actually running really well lap-wise. I love that play. I think some of the usual suspects are also in play. Dillon at 5,900 starting 30th. The problem is, guys, we know it. He's going to be over-owned because of a NASCAR tout out there that charges people to play Dillon. DiBurrito is also in play if you're wanting to make the Liehr sort of play where a guy is overqualified in my opinion, but that'll drive down his ownership significantly. That might be an interesting play here. I don't know that I will do it. I'm leaning more towards Bubba, Ragan, McDowell, and Dillon. Like, those are the guys I'm looking at.
What are your thoughts on Kasey Kahne this week?
Dude, I also love Kasey Kahne. Kasey Kahne looked good. The problem is, and I said it last week, is he's been on the required winning lineup 0 times this season. And I just have a fundamental problem playing a guy that out of 10 races hasn't once been required to be on a winning lineup.
Well, I hear you. But for me, it boils down to what that team's been doing in practices. Obviously, first practice, second, and happy hour. But also, a little bit of recent success as well. But Kasey Kahne and those boys, they were practicing in the teens today. I'm not going to go like full-fledged all out on Kasey Kahne, but guy's got 28 starts here. He's got 3 top 5s and 8 top 10s, 18 top 20s. I mean, can he come from that 25th position at a $6,200 salary point and give you a little bit, possibly even a top 15 to top 10?
Yeah, dude, Kasey Kahne's a legit play as well. Like, he is rocketing up the boards. I actually had some good practices as well. Might be a good value. I was trying to, after you guys have been on to me so much for my value plays over the years, I was trying to keep all my value plays below 6K this week since we needed to save extra money. But yeah, if you want to spend more than that, Kasey Kahne at 6,200 is definitely a play.
Speaking real quick, okay. I know we got to go into it real quick. You're talking about saving money. Are you going to be saving any money at Menards this weekend?
Absolutely not. No. Once again, another guy not required to be on winning lineups so far, I believe, this season. He may have been on once, but like, dude, they just aren't doing anything.
Yeah, I understand, where people will come from, like starting from the 20th position. That team is definitely a, 10 to 20 place team, but Menard's had some decent practices today. His practice in 9th in final practice, but, the 10th overall, 10 lap averages, he was in the 10th position. I like him, but the problem is, can Paul Menard finish a race is the question. And I don't know if I have confidence in him to do that.
Well, the last 4 races Paul Menard has raced in, he has negative place differential in all 4 of them. Going 19th to 30th, 7th to 13th, 20th to 24th, and 13th to 30th. So, I mean, I just do not feel comfortable rostering Paul Menard. That team has been straight garbage everywhere except the Luck Box Daytona 500 where he put up over 50 points. Yeah. I have no love for Menard.
I got you. Me neither.
Now it's time for the Go Into the Garage segment, everybody's favorite segment where we talk a little bit of trash on the drivers. Maybe we're talking trash on DraftKings or FanDuel now, maybe, who knows. Liehr, who are you sending to the garage this week, buddy?
Man, the guy I'm going to the garage with is the guy that's one of our local guys here in the Midwest, and I'm going to be going with Jamie Mack in the number one. Jamie Mack is, or I like to call him J-Mac, but he's definitely off to one of his worst seasons since being at this level in the sport. Let me just take a moment here and read off J-Mac's finishes so far in the 2018 season. He finished 16th at Daytona, 19th, 36th, 26th, 17th, 26th, 3rd. That's his by far his best finish of the season. 19th, 19th, and 28th last week at Talladega. This is absolutely a horrible start, and he has not shown any signs in that team at all of getting out of that current rut. He's practiced today in the 24th and 29th positions. When it comes to 10-lap averages, he was 23rd fastest in the second practice and 28th in happy hour in 10-lap averages. I mean, the guy is worse than where he's starting at, which is the 23rd position. He's raced here at the Monster Mile 30 times. He's got 0 wins, only 2 top 5s, and 9 top 10s. His cost this week is $7,400. He's, like I said, he's starting from the 23rd position. In my opinion, I feel that's definitely a vehicle and a driver that's not going to be moving forward, and he will be finishing in the same position or even higher. And when I say higher, I mean like 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. He's just not a guy that I'm going to be rostering and looking at this week. I know there's probably going to be other people out there going, well, J-Mac starting from 23rd at $7,400. He's a good price tag. That team has just not been doing it this year, man. And I haven't seen it from them. I don't know. There's something going on internally there that we just don't know about. But this team is kind of like Joey Logano last year. I mean, you remember when everybody was just off of Joey Logano for a majority of the season because he didn't really perform very well last year. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, this year, it's J-Mac, and, it's an unfortunate situation, but no way I'm rostering that guy tomorrow.
Yeah, dude, I want to go off on you right now. I want to tell you that you're on crack, and, I mean, with J-Mac starting 24th, I want to tell you that this is absolutely an absurd take. The problem is this year I have a Jamie McMurray addiction problem, and I kept playing him thinking that he was going to right the ship somehow, and he got that one third-place finish where he was required to be on the lineup. But every other week that I've played J-Mac, he has literally cost me money on lineups. And I think I'm in agreement with you. It's time to just get off. And if he's going to be the car that burns me, so be it, like the way we approached Logano last year. If you take it and get burned by it, so be it. I don't want to have to deal with J-Mac anymore until he proves to me that he's capable of actually running better than 18 to 25th. And that's all we've seen him run this year, basically. And that's pretty sad.
It really is sad, man. And I feel bad for the guy, but if you're, Chip Ganassi Racing, what point do you get to where you start questioning, okay, is this the right driver for our organization? And I don't know if McDonald's is tied to McMurray or just tied to Chip Ganassi or any of these other major sponsors, but if I was Chip, Ganassi, I'd be looking at possibly other alternatives for drivers because I'm sorry, J-Mac, I love you, brother, but you're just not getting it done, my man.
My going to the garage pick, Hambone Hamlin. Like, look, guys, the guy is the king of pit road penalties, and he's facing one of the toughest pit roads on the circuit. It is even more difficult now that they have one less crew member. And because pit road is actually on a decline that tilts towards the track, tire control issues are a real thing. And just to prove my point that I'm not smoking crack and that this is an actual thing, all of the JGR teams were hit with penalties in the pits today during the Xfinity race for having uncontrolled tires. All of them, right? Which they've been having pit problems. I see this being a problem for Hamlin and his notoriously penalized pit team. I want to fade Hamlin this week. And I think that from what I've heard from people talking tout-wise out there, there are a bunch of people that are liking a swervy sort of Hamlin style play. They may be on an island. I will not be on that island with them because I think that island is going to sink. And it will sink via pit road penalties, in my opinion. Liehr, your thoughts on sending the Hambone to the garage?
Oh, Hambone. man, last week after the funny part was I just started laughing when I was watching the race, and he had to take his pit road penalty for speeding down pit road, and then was speeding again on his penalty for a second one in a row. And it's like, oh my God, man. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And if I was a Denny Hamlin owner last week, I would have just been ferocious with him. But honestly, this week, I can't roster any Hamlin. His salary at $9,900. The scenario just doesn't fit in what I portray or I see is what's going to take place tomorrow at the Monster Mile. When it comes to him, I mean, the guy's got some okay history when it comes to Monster Mile, but he doesn't have a win. He's only got 3 top 5s and 9 top 10s. And the last time that he got a top 5 was all the way back in 2014, and that's when he started 7th. He's starting 10th this week, so he's got a little, area for place differential. But the guy's never been really in 24 starts a dominator here when it comes to the Monster Mile. He's only had one, and that's where he started from the pole, and he led 118 laps. And even in that race in 2015, he finished at 21st. So, just not a guy that I'm really looking at this week. This is not his type of track to dominate. And it's just move on to the next week, and just no FedEx flying into Dover this weekend. It just ain't going to happen.
Which is why I found it so weird that people were kind of promoting him. I get it. We've had some really...
But that's the crazy part. At $9,900, you have to make a decision whether you're going to play Denny Hamlin or Kyle Larson. I personally, I would rather put my money in Kyle Larson, knowing the recent success that guy has had here at this track, and he's starting from the pole, than a guy that is starting 10th and really hasn't had that much success in way more races than Larson.
And if I'm going for place differential, I'm going with Logano or Jimmie or even Blaney with the potential to actually lead me some laps.
And a way cheaper salary.
Yeah, at way cheaper price points. Or even down to Boyer. I think those are the better plays. That's why I really wanted to send Hamlin to the garage. I thought the actual pit story, though, is an interesting one that our viewers might find intriguing, because JGR had blanket problems with uncontrolled tires today. That's just crazy. All right, Liehr, we've sent everybody to the garage. We've got our burning rubber and our value. Give us last week's winner of the season-long league, and then we'll wrap up the show and get out of here.
All right, brother. Congratulations to Sweeney 2011 for his top score of 275.25. He had a team consistent of A.J. Allmendinger at 32% owned, who crashed and only got him 6.5 points, but still enough of the rest of his team to take it home last week. But then he had Eric Amarola with a 71, who had obviously that was a play we talked about, and you talked about on the show when you had to do it by yourself, starting from that 40th position. DiBurrito with 41.5, Chase Elliott with a 44.5, Kasey Kahne with a 39.25, and the main guy that you had to have on your lineup last week, which was Joey Bag of Donuts Logano at 72.5. But I do have to kind of toot my own horn a little bit. I got 3rd place last week, so my first top 5 this season.
Yeah, nice job on that, bro. I also wanted to compliment...
I went with the Penske stack.
I also wanted to compliment everyone in our league for having at least one wrecked car on their lineup. That was awesome. All 100 teams in our league, basically had a wrecked car. That was fabulous.
I mean, it's Talladega or, Daytona. That's bound to happen.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. I just thought it was funny that not one of us skated through with a clean lineup.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. As always, remember to like, share, subscribe. We love having you, and we love having your comments on the show. We'll both be around, I'm pretty sure, this evening and tomorrow morning before the race to answer some questions. If you have them on the YouTube page, feel free to ask away on there or on Twitter. And have a good one, guys. Let's win some money this week.
Thanks, guys, for watching the show. Always appreciate you watching. Looking forward to tomorrow, man. Monster Mile, you can't beat it. Hopefully the weather cooperates and we have some good racing. And you're still winning some money this weekend, man. I mean, it's been kind of an up and down season, but I am ready to toot the horn, and I'm going to hopefully get my fantasy ticket tomorrow. So here's to doing that. But have a great weekend, everybody.
Well, you better not be trying to get my ticket in the $33 because that's mine this week. Hey, Ace of Base already showed me the sign that it's going to happen.
I saw the sign myself too. So.
There you go. Have a good one, everybody.
Later, y'all.